A lot of times clients come in with this gorgeous inspiration photo. You get a Pinterest photo with like a level 6 natural base and these gorgeous blonde highlights. But your client, their hair is a level 3. So what do? So let's say you want to change their base color from like a level 3 to a level 6. That's like my favorite ideal base color. Comment below if you agree. But let's say you want to change the base color from a level 3 to a level 6. We all know that when you're trying to like lift hair with permanent color, it always turns warm. So I'm gonna give you this go-to formula that I use whenever I wanna first lift the base color before I do highlights. So we can have that natural level 6 look and then put highlights over it. So the number one thing to remember when you're doing this is to remind your clients that, and to remind yourself that even if you lift to a level 6 and you do everything right to make sure the tone turns out perfectly, it's still never gonna look exactly like what a level 6 naturally looks like. And that's because you're using color. Anytime you're using artificial color, it's never gonna be exactly the same. But there are things that you can do to make sure it doesn't turn out brassy and warm, which is, a big complaint with most clients. And I'm gonna give you the formula first, and then what I'm gonna do is break it down in case you don't use this color line. That way you'll be able to figure out how to put this with a different color line. But you have to understand the principles behind it in order to do that. So I'm gonna show you all of that today. Let's get started. So my go-to formula for lifting from a level 3 to a level 6 is going to be, Wella is the color line I like to use for permanent color. And a lot of people forget that permanent color does lift hair. It has to be virgin hair, of course. Color does not lift color. So anytime there's color in the hair, you have to do something totally different. But Wella is a fantastic permanent color line. I love using it. No, I'm not sponsored, but this is the formula I use in Wella. 6 stroke 1, and this is half and half. And 6 stroke 2. Okay, so what's this going to give me? So a 6 stroke 1 in Wella, you just have to kind of know the numbers and the system of the color line that you're using. But in Wella, a 1 is a gray ash color. Okay, and then a 2 is green. So we're gonna do half 6 stroke 1 and half 6 stroke 2. So if you look at these colors together, you're gonna get a very ashy color. The next thing that I'm going to do is actually add an additive. So in Wella, in the Colistin Perfect, so like the KP line, which is their permanent color, they have what's called like a special mix. So these are additives that you could add to your formula in order to customize it. So whenever you're lifting hair, even though you're using, the right tones, adding that additive just kind of does a little bit more to prevent that brassiness that you don't want to see. You want to look as cool and natural as possible because a natural level 6 doesn't look orange. So what I do with their special mix, here, I'll write that here. So I do the stroke 2, 8. Okay, so why do I do 2, 8? Well, in Wella, remember 2 is green and 8 is actually blue. Okay, so why did I choose these tones? We're gonna go back through this formulation process so you could figure out why I use these tones so that you could apply this to a different color line. Maybe they have a different numbering system. Oh, and the amount of special mix is just gonna be 1/2 inch. So literally just measure out 1/2 inch. Sometimes they have them in the bottom of bowls, which is really helpful. So measure out just 1/2 inch, add it to your color just to kind of prevent the brassiness even more. Okay, so why does this work? The first thing that we're gonna do is start with the natural level. Okay, so if we have a natural level 3, I always like to start with my goal and write down my desired level so I know where I'm starting and where I'm going. Just makes it so much easier. So we're starting at a level 3 and we're trying to get to a level 6. So the next thing I'm going to ask myself is, what is the remaining pigment at a level 6? And if you know what it is before I say it, go ahead and write it in the comments. But the remaining pigment at a level 6 is red, orange. So what are the balancing pigments? Oops, let's move that a little bit. Okay, so what are the balancing pigments? So the opposites of red and orange. So that is green and blue. So if you look at this formula over here, we have the gray ash, and this is kind of gonna give you that gray and blue. They actually don't have like a 6-stroke 8. So that's why I did this gray ash with this green. But honestly, everything, like by today's standards, everything always looks red. So if you do green, you're gonna be just fine. Then adding this gray is just gonna be even better. So that's why I chose the 6-stroke 1 and 6-stroke 2. So first you start with your natural level and you're going to a level 6. So one thing I know about KP, which you want to look up in your color line, so Colistin Perfect, is it is able to achieve 4 to 5 levels of lift. However, you're limited by developer because the highest developer, which is level 40, is only going to lift up to 4 levels. So 40 volume. I said level 40, sorry, but it's 40 volume. It's only gonna lift 4 levels. So just keep that in mind. So this is well within the range to be able to get you to a level 6. So you could do this with color by doing half and half, and then adding that special mix of green, blue, 1/2 inch. And when you try this formula, you could start with 1/2 inch. If you feel like it wasn't enough, it's not a big deal. You could always do a demi-permanent over everything to kind of reduce that brass even more. But this seems to work really, really well. Also, you might find that it's almost perfect and it just needs a little bit more. That's okay. So next time you do it, just make it 1 inch. So start with 1/2 inch, see how you like that. And then go to 1 inch as your go-to if you like that better. It's kind of just preference. They're both gonna be really nice and cool toned, but you may personally just like to use a little bit more of this additive. Oh, the other thing that I wanted to say is you have to use 40 volume. I know everybody online is always like afraid of using 40 volume. You don't need it, you don't need it. That's true with bleach, but when you're lifting with color, you have to remember the purposes of the developers. And the developers give you levels of lift for color. So for lightener, all it does is control the speed of lift. For color, it controls the amount of levels. So you have to remember that there is a difference between what the developer's purpose and objective is when it comes to color versus using bleach. So with color, it absolutely matters which developer you use. 40 volume is gonna give you 4 levels of lift, or up to 4 levels of lift. And I'm gonna just show you what these colors look like. Just raw, but remember, because you're lifting, those are the pigments that are going to be added into what you see on the swatch book. So this is what they look like, just like the raw colors that I'm telling you to use. So if the lighting's good enough, there's 6-1 and then there's 6-2. So you can see like they're pretty cool and natural, but when you have the remaining pigments added into that, because that's what's going to be left when you're lifting hair, you're going to have those warm pigments coming out. That's why I add this special mix to it, to just kind of force it back to that ashy color that I want to see. I want to see it just like on the swatch book. You know what I mean? So if I were to not add this additive, it would still be cooler than if I were to use like a 6N or something like that. But that additive just pushes it back to the cool side because it's going to be trying so hard to stay warm. So that's why this formula works so well. And that's what the colors look like one more time. So 6-stroke 2, 6-stroke 1. Remember, 2 is green, 1 is gray, which is kind of like green blue-ish. So, so those two together is what I use. And then that additive. Now let's talk about application real quick. So when it comes to application, I apply this similar to when you're doing like a global bleach application. You want to be wary of the roots. You want to make sure that you don't get hot roots, right? So that's when it's like super light at the root, but everything else is kind of like a more natural neutral tone. So I have 2 options when I'm doing this type of application. So the first option is to do everything except for the roots. So this is like this is your strand of hair right here. I'm not a very good artist, you guys, but okay, so this is your roots. You're gonna leave your roots out and you're gonna color up to the roots. And then in the last 20 minutes, you're going to apply it to the roots. So you're gonna go back through and apply it to the roots. Now, your ends are going to probably get lighter than here, but to me, I like that and that's okay. But if you're worried about that, you want it to be super even all the way through. To me, natural hair doesn't look like that. So I'm just not too worried about the ends, unless they're very over processed. Then you want to be kind of conscious about the ends. But I'm okay with letting the ends be a little bit lighter. So I apply this all at the same time. So up to the roots and all the way through the ends. And then I'll go back in the last, 20 minutes after I've applied everything and then apply the roots. So then I check the roots as soon as the roots are done. And this has been on long enough, which I believe the processing time is about 45 minutes for this. This has been on long enough and the roots look good, then I go ahead and rinse it out. So application number 2 is I do the same thing. So I apply everything below the roots. And then after I'm done applying, so directly after I'm done applying, I just kind of feather up to the roots. So I kind of swipe up my brush and feather up to the roots. So that's gonna leave the roots slightly darker always. It's never gonna look like hot roots. And to me, because of like what modern styles are looking like these days, it's always nice to just leave it slightly darker at the roots. Plus, if you're gonna go in with highlights and stuff later, it just looks a lot better to have depth at the roots and just lighter as you go down through the mid shaft and through the ends. Thanks so much for watching that, you guys. I hope that that was clear enough, and I hope that you'll be able to apply this to maybe the color line that you're using. But if you have any questions, just make sure to leave them in the comments below. I'd love to help you out. If you want some more help with color, I have some resources that I'll just go ahead and leave in the links in the description below. So go ahead and check out all of those resources. And then also, if you like this video and you want to help me spread the word, make sure to share this video, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Lauren, and you can find me on Instagram at Lauren Francis Hair, and I will see you soon.